You've seen the van builds, the ones with fairy lights strung across the ceiling, the pour-over coffee setup, the dog curled up on the platform bed, somewhere between a lifestyle brand and a slow death sentence. Cozy. Minimal. Completely wrong. Here's what that van does to you in week 2 of a real grid collapse. It becomes a greenhouse in July and a freezer in February. It becomes the most visible object on any road, because everyone within half a mile can see exactly what you're carrying. And it runs out of water on day 10. Last time, we talked about which cities become death traps when the trucks stop rolling. This video is about how you leave them. A correctly built van isn't a home on wheels, it's a mobile fortress. But building it correctly requires a methodology, not a shopping list. Here's the system. Most people think about a survival van the way they think about a camping trip that never ends, a rolling house, somewhere to sleep when the world gets difficult. That mental model is the first thing that will get you killed. A survival van is not a home. Homes are static. Homes have addresses. A home can be found, surrounded, and stripped in an afternoon by anyone motivated enough. A survival van's entire strategic value comes from being none of those things. Not fixed, not visible, not predictable. The moment you build one like a home, optimizing for comfort and aesthetics over function, you've built the wrong vehicle for the wrong crisis. Here's what a properly configured survival van actually does. It performs 3 specific roles simultaneously, and it either passes all 3 or it fails. The first role is mobile concealment platform. It moves you through a deteriorating environment without broadcasting what you're carrying or that you're worth following. The second role is 72-hour autonomous life support. It keeps you thermally stable, hydrated, and fed through the acute collapse window with no external input. No grid, no resupply truck, no functioning store anywhere near you. The third role is terrain-unlocked resupply vehicle. It reaches the locations that matter, on roads that aren't interstates, regardless of what's happening to the main arteries. We call this the 3-role audit. Run your current build against it. Not the build you're planning, the vehicle in your driveway right now. Most fail all 3 immediately. The cargo strapped to the roof rack fails roll 1 before you've driven a mile. The 10-gallon water tank fails roll 2 around day 8. The van optimized for pavement fails roll 3 the moment the highway becomes a parking lot. These aren't failures of commitment. They're failures of framework. Most people build for the wrong problem. For comfort, for aesthetics, for the look of preparedness rather than the function of it. This audit applies to any vehicle. Truck, SUV, cargo van. The 3 roles are identical. The implementation changes. The standard doesn't. Most people skip directly to gear. Solar panels, water filters, the right knife. Those are Tier 3 decisions. You don't reach Tier 3 until you understand what the vehicle is supposed to do. Does your current build pass? Probably not. Here's why. Starting with the role that kills people fastest when it fails. Day 4 of a grid failure. Your van is parked outside a hardware store because the gas station across the street still had fuel this morning, and the line is already 3 blocks long. You have gear, you have food, you have everything you need. And within 2 hours, everyone within visual range knows it. This is the prepared vehicle paradox. The better equipped your van looks from the outside, the faster it becomes a target. Not in some distant theoretical future, within days of any serious grid disruption. When social order starts compressing, people don't break into houses first. They move toward the vehicle that's already packed and obviously ready to leave, because that vehicle has everything they need, and it's moving slower than an idea. The most dangerous exterior modifications for a survival van are also the most popular ones. Roof racks loaded with gear, military-style accessories, blacked-out windows that signal privacy, which signals contents, overlanding decals, lifted suspension that says money and preparation in the same visual breath. Every one of these is a liability. Every one of them narrows your window between arriving somewhere safely and becoming a negotiation you didn't plan for. The concealment standard is simple. A survival van should be visually indistinguishable from a work vehicle. A plumber's van, an electrician's van, something that a person walking past assigns zero value to in under 2 seconds. Plain white or gray exterior. Commercial van body preferred. Ford Transit, Mercedes Sprinter, Ram ProMaster. No aftermarket exterior modifications visible from the road. Nothing on the roof that doesn't look like it belongs to a service company. We call this the work van test. If a stranger walking past your vehicle assumes it belongs to a contractor, it passes. If they look twice, it fails. Think of visual anonymity the way you think about distance. Distance is the primary kinetic buffer between a city and a collapsing metro area. Visual anonymity is the primary kinetic buffer between your van and everyone who needs what's inside it. The principle is identical. The further you are from being noticed, the more time you have to make decisions. You've solved who can see you. Now solve the problem that kills you before anyone gets close. The temperature inside your van when the climate control is gone. A vehicle parked in direct sun reaches 130 degrees Fahrenheit inside within 20 minutes. At 104 degrees core body temperature, cognitive function begins to fail. At 107 degrees, you are dying. That's not a worst-case scenario. That's a summer afternoon in Phoenix with no air conditioning and no shade. Now the other direction. An uninsulated metal van parked overnight in a northern winter drops to ambient temperature within hours. In Minnesota in January, ambient is minus 15 degrees. In North Dakota, it hits minus 30. You have roughly 6 hours of functioning body heat before hypothermia starts degrading your decision-making. You lose the ability to reason before you lose the ability to move. This is the thermal kill window. It operates in both directions simultaneously. And it doesn't care about your gear, your food storage, or your route plan. Temperature management isn't a comfort feature. It's the first life support system, and most van builds treat it like an afterthought added in the final weekend before departure. Standard campervan insulation fails the survival standard. It's designed for ambient temperatures between 20 and 90 degrees. Comfortable camping conditions, not 130-degree July afternoons, not minus 30-degree January nights. For a survival build, the floor is the priority. Ground cold drains body heat faster than air cold, and most builders insulate the walls and ignore the surface they actually sleep on. The insulation standard is closed cell spray foam, or Thinsulate barrier on every metal surface, floor first. This is not complicated. It is non-negotiable. For heating, one catalytic propane heater, not a diesel heater. Diesel requires fuel infrastructure, produces sound when running, and creates a dependency you cannot sustain in a resupply blackout. A catalytic propane heater runs on standard canisters, burns silently, and needs no electricity. 4 backup canisters weigh under 12 pounds total. That's your thermal insurance for a northern winter, and it fits under the bed platform. For cooling, reflective exterior covers on every window are the primary tool. Not a fan. Not a powered unit. Shade discipline and parking orientation. North-facing, undercover, away from asphalt and reflective surfaces. Matter more than hardware in a grid-down environment where every amp-hour is a decision. Here is the thermal audit. Can your van maintain a survivable temperature range for 72 hours with 0 electricity and 0 resupply? If not, it fails roll 2. That failure is fatal before any other variable becomes relevant. The average van build carries 7 to 10 gallons of fresh water. At minimum human consumption, 1 gallon per day per person, that's 10 days for one person. Less if you cook. Less if you're running hot. Less if you're sick, which you will be, because stress and disrupted sleep compromise immune function within 72 hours. Most serious crises last longer than 10 days. Your water system is a countdown timer, and most people built it to run out. The water standard is 30 gallons minimum in a fixed tank, plus a portable gravity filter, a Sawyer squeeze or equivalent, that processes water from any natural source. Rivers, lakes, streams, puddles. The filter is your redundancy. The tank is your buffer. Without both, you have a water supply. With both, you have a water strategy. The route discipline piece is the part most builders miss entirely. A survival van must, at all times, be parked within 15 miles of a natural water source, not a municipal tap, not a store, a river, a lake, a creek, something that flows regardless of whether anyone is paying an electric bill. This isn't a hardware decision. It's a planning decision made before you leave, using paper maps, not GPS. The second system is signals blackout, and this is where most people either skip entirely or overcorrect in the wrong direction. In the first days of a serious grid disruption, vehicle tracking becomes an asset to whoever still has operational infrastructure. Emergency management, private logistics, any entity trying to account for mobile resources. A van that appears on no tracking system is a van that cannot be rerouted, commandeered, or flagged. Practically, this means 3 things. A Faraday bag for your phone and electronics when not in active use, removal of the factory GPS transponder, make and model specific, research required before you need to do it, and cash-only fuel purchases during the pre-collapse window, while cash transactions are still unremarkable. This isn't paranoia. It's the same logic as concealment. The less data you generate, the fewer decisions get made about you by people who don't have your interests in mind. 3 systems: concealment, thermal, water, and signals. A van that passes all 3 is no longer a vehicle. It's a mobile fortress. Now let's build it. Most people try to build all 3 systems at once. They buy the solar panel and the water tank and the insulation foam in the same weekend, spend a month half finishing each one, and end up with a van that partially passes one test and fails the other 2. The build sequence matters as much as the build itself. Get the order wrong, and you've spent money solving the wrong problem first. We call this the 4-tier sequence. You complete Tier 1 before you touch Tier 2. No exceptions. Tier 1 is concealment and anonymity. Cost: $200 to $400. Strip the exterior. Remove roof racks, aftermarket lights, overlanding accessories. If the paint is anything other than plain white or gray, repaint it. Tint every window to the legal maximum for your state. The goal is a van that a stranger ignores in under 2 seconds. This tier costs almost nothing and delivers the highest return on this entire list. Tier 2 is thermal. Cost: $400 to $800. Closed-cell foam insulation on the floor and all wall panels, reflective covers for every window, 1 catalytic propane heater with 4 backup canisters, no powered systems in Tier 2. This tier runs on 0 electricity, which means it functions when every other system in the van has failed. Tier 3 is water and filtration. Cost: $300 to $600. A 30-gallon fixed tank with a gravity-fed faucet, a Sawyer squeeze filter as your redundancy system, 10 water purification tablets as tertiary backup, a printed paper map with natural water sources marked along every pre-planned route. The paper map is not optional. It's the only navigation that works when the satellite network is congested or down. Tier 4 is signals and power independence. Cost: $400 to $700. A Faraday bag set. Factory transponder removed. Make and model specific. Research it now. A 200-watt flexible solar panel, flush-mounted and not racked, which would immediately fail your Tier 1 concealment standard. A 100-amp-hour lithium battery. A basic ham radio for outbound communication only. Total build cost: $1,300 to $2,500. Not $30,000. Not a specialty conversion. A used cargo van plus this sequence, built in order, produces a vehicle that passes all three roles. Most builds stop here and feel finished. The real strategic advantage hasn't started yet. But first, the objection everyone is already typing. The pre-built conversion market has exploded. $40,000 buys a professionally finished van with a kitchen, a bed platform, and a solar system. $150,000 buys something that looks like a boutique hotel that happens to have wheels. Every single one of them fails roll one before it leaves the lot. The failure is the build itself. A professional conversion van has a distinctive silhouette. Raised roof, custom exterior finishes, visible solar hardware, windows positioned to let in light and broadcast what's inside. These are not subtle signals. They are advertisements. Anyone within a block knows exactly what they're looking at, and in a deteriorating environment, that knowledge is a problem you created. The second failure is optimization. A pre-built conversion is built for comfort, at ambient temperatures, for cooking real meals, for living pleasantly in a world that still functions. It is not optimized for 130-degree heat, with no shore power. It is not designed to sustain one person for 30 days on stored calories with no resupply. The kitchen is built for a farmer's market run, not a grid-down survival window. The third failure is the most important one. You didn't build it, so you can't fix it. When the water pump fails on day 6, and at some point, a water pump fails, you are debugging a system you never installed, using documentation you may not have, in conditions where that failure has consequences beyond inconvenience. A conversion van is a statement. I want comfort that resembles survival. A 4-tier build is a statement. I want survival that resembles nothing at all. These vehicles don't compete. They solve different problems. Make sure you know which problem you're actually preparing for. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about fixed location survival strategies. A homestead requires you to defend one coordinate indefinitely. Every plan, every resource, every relationship, anchored to a single GPS point that anyone with enough motivation can find and reach. A homestead's greatest strength is its permanence. Its greatest vulnerability is identical. It cannot move. A van is not shelter. Shelters are static, and static things can be found, surrounded, and waited out. A van is a decision, made fresh every 24 hours, revised every time the situation changes. That is not a minor advantage. That is the difference between a strategy and a position. We've already talked about which American cities pass the fortress test. The places with the resources, the kinetic buffer, and the culture to remain functional when everywhere else goes dark. Most people understand the destination. What they're missing is the exit vehicle. Without a properly configured van, those cities are inaccessible when it matters. The highway is a parking lot. The gas stations are empty or surrounded. A van built to Tier 4 gets you off the interstate before it becomes a trap and onto county roads before they become contested, with water redundancy and no digital footprint. Pre-plan 3 exit routes from your current city now. Not during a crisis, on a normal weekend, with functioning GPS and open roads. Mark the natural water sources along each route. Note where county roads replace interstates. Identify where the main arteries become dangerous and where the alternatives begin. Do this before you need it, because after you need it is too late. A van without a destination is expensive camping. A van with pre-planned routes to a fortress city is a survival decision that took one afternoon to make. Here's the honest accounting. A correctly built van, at all 4 tiers, parked in your driveway, operated by someone who cannot purify water from a stream, read a paper map, or diagnose a failed fuel line. That van is a $2,000 liability. The build is the platform. Skills are what make it function. 3 skills determine whether this van survives contact with an actual crisis. Basic mechanical knowledge, enough to diagnose and fix the most common failure points on the specific vehicle you built. Water sourcing from natural sources using the filter you installed in Tier 3. Navigation by paper map and compass, because GPS fails before most other systems and stays dark the longest. First, run the 3-roll audit on your current vehicle today. Most fail all 3. That's the starting point, not the failure condition. Second, build in tier sequence. Tier 1 before Tier 2. Tier 2 before Tier 3. The sequence is structural. Skipping it produces a van that looks prepared and fails under pressure. Third, acquire the 3 skills before you need them. Every skill practiced in normal conditions costs a weekend. Every skill learned during a crisis costs something you cannot get back. Fourth, build the route plan now. Pre-collapse, with open roads and functioning GPS. The window for planning closes faster than the window for driving. A van is not a survival strategy. A van is a mobility platform inside a survival strategy. It moves you from a death trap to a fortress city. It keeps you alive long enough to get there. Geography gives you a destination. The vehicle gives you a chance. Skills give you a future. 1 van, 4 tiers, 1 decision.